Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina, and we're your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Men. We are deep divers and avid students of life and powerful facilitators for healing. In real life, I'm an intuitive healer who loves to blend massage therapy and energy work to provide customized holistic services for my clients.
And I'm a life coach specializing in parent and women empowerment, and I'm also a sound healer. We both love to incorporate crystals, essential oils, angelic Reiki, and intuitive guidance into our work.
So here's our context. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men are tough, silent, and forceful, where women can be chatty, manipulative, or emotional. In doing that, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone's not fitting the mold, we might call them a tomboy or a sissy. Those and similar labels often cause discord. But what would a world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle, deep and powerful, tough, fierce, and open. That qualities are not specific to a gender, that we all have all qualities available to express. What would the world look like where we are all free to be who we choose to be and express all of our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. When we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. And today we have Peter joining us all the way from Denmark. So Peter, welcome to the podcast, and go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much, Christina, and Martina as well. Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. It's really an honor. Thank you so much. Who am I? Well, I'm a physical therapist from Denmark, and I met Martina way back when we were studying with the Ford Institute, and yeah, that was kind of my introduction to coaching back then. But as I said, I'm a physical therapist. I grew up in Denmark. Um, I studied here, and then I ended up moving to the US, where I lived for a few years with my husband, and now we're back in Denmark with our two kids. So that was kind of the very short version of who am I. The little bit longer is that personally, I'm very good at manifesting, and that is kind of who I am. So I set a vision more or less consciously. The older I've gotten and the more enlightened I've gotten, I'm more conscious about setting the intentions, and then I manifest most of what I ask for. And it's been very interesting to become more and more aware of how that process works, and how I was doing it without thinking about it, and how I'm now using it more as a tool in my life. So that was a little longer about who I am.
That is so cool. And then it's like, okay, then you really have to watch what you're manifesting, right?
Oh, absolutely. You really got to be clear. And I think that goes for everyone, that you got to be really clear about your intentions in life, and about your outlook on life. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that if they believe that it's going to be a bad day, if that's their intention for the day on an like subconscious level or whatever, then they will have a bad day. And I try every morning when I wake up to I say to my husband, I wake up with sparkles. And he's like, "Oh, geez, you're sparkling again." And I'm like, he's like so tired in the morning. But I'm like, today is another fabulous day, and it's going to be a wonderful day for all of us. And just starting the day like that, even though I might not feel it at the moment, but setting the intention, it makes for me a wonderful beginning for the day, because that is the day that the way that the day unfolds.
You know, it's so beautiful that you're saying that. And I'm so excited that you're here because one of the things I remembered about you is your heart. Like really, like, and we've not seen or talked to each other in probably about 15 years, right? But that's one
Yeah.
of the things that stuck with me. And I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you.
You know,
That's
I
very
would
kind of you.
say, can I say your sweetness? But it's really your heart, your big heart that spoke to me back then. So if we really knew you, what would we know about you?
So I think if you really know me, you would know that I'm a very loyal and caring person. So if someone's in my inner circle, my core circle, I will defend them fiercely, and stand up for people. Um, I do that in general, but especially my crew or my tribe or whatever you want to call it. But I stand up for the people I love and care for, and I'm extremely loyal to everyone. Or at least I try to be. So that's I think that's my core traits. And then I'm very thankful very thankful for you mentioning my heart. And it's interesting because I've always felt I had a big heart, metaphorically speaking, but also when I started my coaching business after doing the training we did 15 years ago, I called it heartfulness. And I was working it had a different name in Danish, but that was kind of the content, like that was what it meant. So I was working to expand the heart of other people. That was my intention. So that's thank you for
Yummy.
that.
Yummy, yummy.
Really yummy. Yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff. All right,
yeah.
Peter, we're going to ask you the icebreaker question. Can you share a funny, silly, or embarrassing story about yourself with us?
Oh, I was thinking about that. What I could think, and I'm there are so many embarrassing stories about me. Um, I even though I'm a very loving person, I can also have a temper. And there was once at an airport in France where I had a backpack with me, and I had a carabiner on the backpack, and this French woman in the security clearance, she said I couldn't bring it on the flight. And I was like, I brought it along to Australia and back. So I was like, this means something to me. Why can't I bring it? And she was like, it's a weapon. I was like, it's a carabiner. It was like 3 inches long. So I was a little upset maybe, and she ended up saying, and I don't know if I can say this word on your podcast, but she said, "Don't you fuck with me." And my initial response was, "I'd rather not," and that was not very polite. And also very embarrassing. So I think that's kind of an embarrassing story about me standing in the middle of the airport. And I don't speak French, but I do know what gendarme means, which is like a policeman, and that was what she started saying. So I was just like, okay, just keep the carabiner, and I'll go from here. So yeah, so not my proudest moment.
Traveling does bring out that side of us, though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And being from Denmark and having lived in the US and having had a company in Denmark while I was living in the US, I have traveled a lot, both during the pandemic and after and before. But it has shown an interesting side of myself that I did not know that I had. Um, and it's interesting because you started the podcast with talking about like that we have to embrace all our traits and feelings, and I really struggled with this because I had this sense of entitlement. I started to feel entitled. So because I'm a very frequent flyer, I have a high status with the airline. And once I was in a long line at the airport, and they were checking the passports as they were walking down the line, and he saw my boarding pass, and he was like, "Oh, you're in group one, you're a gold member." So he took me by my elbow and said, this way, sir." It was in Britain. And took me out of the queue and walked me all the way around the people up to the very front. And I didn't think anything of it. And and slowly having experiences like that, you come to expect that, and you feel entitled to that. And then when you don't get it, it kind of causes you anger. I don't know if it's anger, but irritation. Like why am I not getting the service I'm used to? And one day I realized that I was feeling entitled, and that was definitely not something that I saw myself as. And then I did the work that we know how to do, and I kind of figured out, okay, where does entitlement benefit me? Where is it a good thing for me? And yeah, and then I kind of came to peace with the fact that I'm entitled, and I'm fortunate enough to have that entitlement sometimes,
I
and
love
also
that.
in so many other areas. Yeah,
Yeah, but I love that you stopped and reflected and did the work, right? The work
yeah,
that you that you're like
yeah.
wanting to teach other people to do. You're like, oh yeah, look at
Yeah,
me doing work and things.
maybe I should do this myself. Yeah, yeah. It's always nice when we don't just preach, but we
Practice
actually
what we
do what
preach.
we preach. Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and what part of what's interesting about this is like the privileges we have that we're not even aware of, and then if we don't have them, we're like taken aback. It's like, what do you mean? Right? What do you think I am? That's the
Yeah.
entitlement, right? So who do you think I am? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friends always tease me about like, have you ever said, "Do you know who I am?" And I've never done that, thankfully. But but sometimes I'm like, really? Don't you know I'm a gold member? So yeah, it happens, but not the
Mhm.
proudest moment. So
Yes.
yeah.
But you know, I also believe that airports bring out the best, well, actually the worst in us because it's like there's so much stressors, right? There's
Yeah.
so much stressors in an airport. Just the thought of it causes like, oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, but also
Yeah, I would say
there's so many people with fear. So many people are afraid of flying, so you're picking up all that fear-based energy too. At least for me, like airports make me throw up a lot because I'm so sensitive to people's energy, and there's so much fear-based energy that it often makes me sick. And I didn't understand that for many years until I started really working with energy more, and then I'm like, oh, so now I know how to protect myself better too, now that I understand the whole mechanism. But yeah, there's a lot of fear energy in airports. Makes us a little nutty.
Well,
it's
that are
totally makes sense, and a lot of stress as well. People are like, "Are we going to make our flight? We're delayed." Blah 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 blah. I would say flying as much as I do and have done, it's not a stressful experience for me at all. Not until I had kids. Then I
mm,
would say having a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old now, and traveling those two can be stressful in a different way than than it was just flying by myself.
Well, there's
you
so much
have
Definitely.
out of your
so much more, you have
control
so much more luggage, right? I remember
Yeah.
the first time
Oh my geez. Yeah.
we traveled without the children, and it was like, okay, something's missing here. First, the children
Yeah.
are missing, but the luggage, like we only have like 2 pieces of luggage. What's wrong? It is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. We when we last flew over here, we had 10 suitcases with us, which was absolutely ridiculous. But I mean that you have to bring a lot of things when you when you travel with kids,
yeah,
especially for a longer time.
yeah.
So,
Mm.
but actually talking about the airport and flying, just made me think of something that I started practicing just recently. Actually, I flew on Thanksgiving last year. I was flying back to the US, back home. We were still living in the US at that point, and um, I had this inspiration at the airport that we were flying out of to buy a $5 gift card at Starbucks for the entire crew. I mean, there are 14 people crew on a plane. So it wasn't that much. It was like, I don't know what, $70 or something. But compared to what you actually pay for the ticket when you fly internationally and fly as much as I do, it wasn't much. But to see the gratitude of the cabin crew when I gave them the $5 cards was just such an eye opener. It's not that they don't get paid for what they do. Of course they do. And some of them were like, "Oh, you don't have to do this." I was like, "No, but I'd like to. Like it's Thanksgiving, so I'd like to give you something back." And they were also thankful that it actually has become a routine. So every time I fly now, I bring Starbucks gift cards and I just hand it to the chief purser when I get on the flight, and they pass it out to the crew, and they are so thankful. And it's such a small thing. And
Yeah.
I think it's very important that we, as we interact with everyone, every people, call centers, workers, like service people in the service industry, when you're talking to someone, that we show gratitude. And especially in this time where everything is being so hectic, things are going on that we can't control. There's a lot of people that are worried right now, and which makes sense. And I think it's just important to spread some gratitude and love to the people that we are are interacting with on a daily basis. And I guess that comes back to my big heart, maybe. I don't know, probably.
Well, and it is remembering that these are human beings at the other end, right? And as a fact, I know they don't get paid that much. Like I have a
Yeah,
friend who is who works what do you call them? Oh,
Flight attendant.
cabin
flight
crew
attendant,
or
flight
flight
attendant. I
attendants.
was like, I just lost the word. A flight attendant, and he doesn't get paid like he doesn't get paid much, really. And he doesn't
Yeah,
get paid for the time like before because they have to be there early, and he doesn't get paid for the time after. He gets paid from when the door closes to when the door opens. And and it's like, yeah, we forget, like we get entitled. It's like
we
I
do.
paid for
Yeah,
this. Like, oh, okay, no, maybe not. So yeah, beautiful.
yeah.
That's just such a, yeah, it's definitely your big heart. Beautiful. And it definitely gives ideas, which is something so simple to do, right?
Yeah,
And what a difference in their day and what a difference in everybody's person that they now get in contact with. Because now they're in that grateful space and they just pass it on. So it's really, really, really beautiful. So Peter, what makes you come alive? Like, what are you most passionate about?
right now, I would say I'm very passionate about kids. I have two little children, so that is taking up a lot of space and time for me. And being a physical therapist, I actually am very curious and very interested in seeing how my kids develop physically and also emotionally, but very much physically, and that really brings me joy. And when I drop them off at daycare, I talk to the teachers who work there, and we talk ergonomics. We talk so that whole bringing my knowledge, my wisdom of ergonomics and physical therapy to their workplace, the daycare, and bring it to the kids and to the other kids and talk to the teachers about that. I think that's actually what brings me alive right now is like spreading my knowledge, and that's also what I do in my company. So we do physical therapy and ergonomics at companies. So we go out to the companies and do physical therapy there, and that's what my employees does. So teaching and helping people prevent physical pain and injuries from working. That is really a calling, and it's so nice to be able to do that as a living, to have that, yeah, privilege to actually work with what really sparks your joy.
Like you
And
and
how
Christina,
cool.
you could geek out all the time.
Yeah, yeah. But how cool that you get to now kind of look at it from a new perspective and be like, "Ooh, how can I impact daycares and the people working there?" And so just new wheel spinning and
Yeah,
more.
because usually, I mean, what we primarily do is we go out to offices for corporations. They hire us in. They make a small room accessible for us. We have a bench there, and then we bring in the physical therapist a few hours a week, and then the company will pay for us, and all the employees can come for free, and they have up to, like, depending on the contract, 3 to 8 times slots that they can use per year. So that's what we do, and to bring that sense of prevention and help people. Um, I'm looking for the word here. Kind of, yeah, prevent injuries from just sitting and standing correctly at work. That is just such a joy.
So good. Really good. So Peter, what was your biggest lesson? So for example, like what was your biggest challenge or what made you who you are today? Or maybe what took the most courage?
Well, I think what made me who I am today was my childhood. I grew up as an only child, and my mom was very sick when I was a kid. She had cancer when I was 2, and so in my first living years, I had to become an adult very fast. And I think that is where I have my caretaker big heart from. It's like taking care of my mom, taking care of my dad because he had to take care of my mom. So kind of that caretaker thing came from there. And then at the same time, being bullied at school and what that kind of meant for my self-worth and my self-image. I think that was one of the biggest challenges, but I think it's also helped me grow definitely once I started to do the work of self-enlightenment and realizing like what had happened and how to make a shift inside myself. So I know that I'm good enough. I mean, I didn't when I was a teenager, and I think most teenagers probably don't, but to various degrees. But I definitely didn't, and after having worked a lot with myself, I would say that I know now that I'm good enough, and that's something that I would really like to pass on to my kids.
Love that.
And it's like, and you will because you're living that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I hope
Because they
so.
will
Yeah,
they pick up on whatever you model, right? So
yeah, yeah, exactly.
beautiful.
So.
So how do you recharge your batteries? Like what do you do to fill your tank?
Oh, I go to the gym, um, and I meditate. Those are and yoga as well, but that's part of going to the gym. The thing is with again with the two little children, having been on paternity leave for the last 2 years, having had one at home, at least one of them at home for the last 2 years, I haven't really had time to go to the gym, which is definitely visible on the scale and also in my flexibility and also my mental flexibility, I would say, has definitely been challenged in these last 2 years. And I'm really excited that they're now both in daycare and that I can start going back to the gym, start doing yoga again and meditation and getting into all the good practices again. But that is what I do to recharge. I love swimming. I love physical activities. I used to be an aerobic teacher. I when I see some of the classes I taught, I'm like, how did I ever manage that? I mean, I used to teach step classes and now I'm just like walking up and down a step bench for 3 times. I'm out of breath and I'm like, how did I even do that? So I'm super excited to get back to the gym to recharge and get back in shape.
It's exciting, really exciting. So, Peter, what would you say your superpower is?
I would say that my superpower is manifestation. Definitely, because I have done it unknowingly on all my life. When I look back, I've done it, and I remember when I did my coaching training back, 15 years ago or whatever. Um, we were talking about finances in one of our classes, and some of my classmates were like, "Yeah, it was so hard, and they never really had enough, and whatever the issue was." And I came with that feeling that there's always enough, and it's always been like that. If I ever, I owned a house with a boyfriend at one point, and if all of a sudden we needed to, I don't know, a water pipe broke or an unexpected expense, and we would be like, "Oh, this is where do we take this from? How do we find the money?" I would be like, "Oh, they'll be there," and then a day later, a customer would call and say, "Hey, we have these money that we need to spend on a project, and we don't really know what to do. And could you help us with something?" And all of a sudden, I had the money to pay for whatever we needed. And it's always been like that with me and money. And so I just learned to kind of spread that into the rest of my life. And um, after I stopped dating the guy that I had the house with. We're still very good friends, by the way, but um, I was looking for a new life partner, and I did some online training to manifest your true love, and it was very interesting. It was very much about like figuring out what is it that actually that you want, what would complement you the best, what is it that you need, and not just what you want, and kind of you kind of put out this wish list for a person And I filled it out and did it very methodically and hung it on the wall. And I even burned it and sent it off into the universe. And then 6 months later, I manifested my now husband at a swim meet. And yeah, he if he ticks off all the things on the list. So
I love
that's my
it.
superpower.
Yeah. So what I hear is this trust and faith in the universe that it's all working out always.
Yeah. And that's always been there. Um, and I don't remember my parents teaching me that was how it was. I just had that always had that inner belief that everything will be all right. And yeah, and it has been. I've been very, very fortunate and very privileged in my life. And I must say that with living in the US for 7 years and seeing the way the US system works compared to the Danish system, I can definitely see how privileged we are, uh, being white, cisgender males. We might be gay, but we're still cisgender males and white, and we are so privileged. So that whole thing has been very much an eye opener as well.
Good for you. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Now, this next question, you might have answered it or not, so I'm just going to say it and you tell me. It's like, okay, I'm done. So tell us about a time when you took a chance for love. And it's not necessarily romantic love, but it can be.
yeah. I would actually say that that was when I met Andrew, my husband. Is um, he was an American. I had just won the green card lottery, which, by the way, is also something that I manifested. I wanted to live in the US, and a friend of mine said, "Why don't you try the green card lottery?" And then I won it in the first go and got a green card for the US. So I was already moving to the US, and I met this American who was living in Copenhagen, and then he moved to Bristol. So we were going separate ways, and I think taking the chance that a long-term relationship would actually work and the way that we made it work and how it has evolved into the love of my life and being able to have a family and children with this wonderful person. That is definitely um yeah, that came out of taking that chance. I don't say that was taking a chance, like actually trusting that it could work on such a long distance over 2.5 years. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I hear even more. I hear like it's trusting even that you don't know it's gonna work out the way, right? Like it's just trusting
Yeah,
how to
it's
be with him and not knowing how it's gonna work out.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I do always have ideas of how I want things to be. Trust me, people tell me, "Oh God, you can be so stubborn." But and it doesn't always turn out like that. But I do have a vision, and oftentimes I have a very clear vision of what I expect and what I see. And one of the very first visions I had during my coaching training way back a long time ago was standing in a forest in Denmark, a specific place that's close to where I grew up, with a man and two children running around. And it's been so interesting for me that back then I was dating my good friend that I had the house with, and I thought he was going to be the man, but it actually turned out that he wasn't. And now I can see myself in that place with a man and two children running around. And again, I manifested that. It was yeah, just the trust. I've always known that it was going to happen. It took a lot longer than I anticipated, and I know that some of my friends and acquaintances, they were like, "Yeah, yeah, he's never going to have those children," um, and it was a long process. It took 10 years longer than I had planned, but now I have two wonderful children and an amazing husband. So I think it is trusting that everything will work out in the best way possible. And I think a lot of people could learn something from that without me wanting to pull it over their heads. But I think if a lot of people were open to just trusting that if they set a positive intention or whatever intention they set an intention, then if they allow it to happen, then it will happen. And I think that that is such a simple lesson that I've learned. And it's basically simple, but it's just so hard for some people to trust. And I think it all comes back again to the trust that, yes, it might not end up the way I thought it should, but it's going to be a good way or the right way.
Yeah. I think it's hard for most people to give up that control, right? They want to hold the reins and make it go their way, but that's honestly not usually what makes it go your way.
Exactly. And I can definitely be like that too. I mean, I can get super upset if I don't get my way. I am an only child after all, so I can be very spoiled. But I think it is to let go. And I know there's this saying, to let go and let God. And I'm not a religious person as such, but I do believe in the universal energy. So for me, it's let go and let the universe. But whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it God or the universe or universal energy or whatever, I think it is to trust that if you put out an intention, the universe will listen and help you, support you to get to that intention, to fulfill that
Okay,
intention.
I want to put in a disclaimer there. Sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And that is that you put it out there and you take actions in that direction, which you did,
Oh, yes.
right? It's not just sitting here and, okay, it's gonna come to me. Why is it not
Yeah.
coming?
Why
Right?
is it not coming yet? Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just
That.
wanted to make sure because it's like we live in this world of wishful thinking and how come it didn't come yet, and but we're not doing anything to move it forward actually. So
Yeah.
I just
And
wanted
I'm
to,
glad. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because that's for me is a given. But
yeah,
I'm so thankful that you bring it up because for me, of course, you take action. Like if there's something you want, you go get it, right? I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, I would like an ice cream right now," and then you just sit and wait, and then strangely enough, you won't end up with an ice cream unless you go buy one or convince someone else to buy one for you. So yeah, you have to do the work, obviously, to to get what you want. But sometimes it's just not. It might not be the work that you thought it was going to be.
Right.
So sometimes, as long as you keep working in the direction that you think you should go, and then something will happen, and all of a sudden you do something else, and then that actually ends up taking you to where you want it to go, kind of in a roundabout way. But you got to do something for sure. You can't
yeah.
just
And
sit and
it's funny that
twiddle your thumbs and be like,
you're talking about the ice cream. I just recently heard it's like manifesting money is not more difficult than getting up, opening the door. If you want the door to be open, you just have to get up and walk to the door and open it. Otherwise, the door will not open, right?
yeah,
And she was talking about, yeah, like making money, manifesting money is exactly that you have to get in action. You have to do something to move you in that direction. So I thought that was quite interesting. The other question I have for you is how did your children come into your life? Because now I'm so
oh
curious.
yeah, okay. Well, this is a long story. No, I'll try to do it short. Um, well, I've always wanted kids, and that was actually the reason why I'm no longer with the first mate, like long-term boyfriend I had, was that he found out that he didn't want kids, and we decided to split up because of that. And then in Denmark, it's very common to that gays and lesbians team up to have kids together. So we call it rainbow children here in Denmark. And so it can be if you have a good friend, you can have kids with her like as a gay male. You can either be a straight woman or a lesbian, and you have the kids together, and then it's like a divorce agreement, like 7/7. You have 7 days at each parent, and that's very common, a very common way to have children if you're gay in Denmark. So that was my original thought. I was gonna try to find a nice girl to have kids with, and it took me far and wide, and I met a lot of nice women, but none of them really seemed to be the right fit. And then a friend of mine shared a post I made on Facebook, and then it was on the front page of one of the free newspapers in Copenhagen, and then all of a sudden I was on national TV on Good Morning Denmark talking about how I wanted to have kids in a rainbow constellation. And then all of a sudden there was a lot of women who came back to me and said, "Oh, I'd love to have kids with you." And I was like, it became so overwhelming with all these nice women that I had no clue of who were, and it was just too much. So I kind of pulled back and was that this is not the way I'm supposed to have children. So one day I was talking to someone, and I don't really recall how we started talking about surrogacy, but that's actually what happened. And then I was like, oh, that makes sense. I need to work with a surrogate, and surrogacy is not legal in Denmark or in most of the European Union. So I looked to the US, and that's why I was like, oh, well, if I have to work with a surrogate in the US, then I should probably live in the US. And that's why I applied for the green card lottery and wanted right off the bat. And then I met Andrew, and then I moved to San Francisco, and the process just started slowly. And then when Andrew moved back to the US, we kind of teamed up in Madison, Wisconsin, where he's from and where his work is. And we worked with an agency there, and they helped us find an egg donor. And from a big database, we narrowed it down to one egg donor. And she had her egg harvested. It was fertilized with my genetics, and then we had 3 embryos develop, and they were frozen and ready to use. And then Corona came and all that. And then when that was kind of over and restrictions were taken away, we teamed up with 2 wonderful surrogates, one after the other, and that has been such beautiful women to work with, and their kindness and their willingness to spend almost a year carrying our child and giving us the gift of having children because they themselves just wanted to give that gift. Of course, they were paid for it, but I truly believe that that was not the reason why they did it. So it has been that in itself has been so inspiring to feel their willingness to help and support and give that gift of parenthood. Very, very moving, and they are the sweetest women. But that is how we ended up first with one child, our son, and then because of COVID and everything, it took quite a long time to have him. So just before he was born, we spoke to the agency that had helped us find the first surrogate, and they were like, "Well, usually we don't match with a new surrogate until you have your first child." I think they wanted to see how we were coping with having a child. And but then they were like, "Well, we actually have a new surrogate available, and we think she'd be a really good match for you." And so we were like, "Oh, let's meet her." So we actually met her when our son was 4 days old, and we just clicked with her instantly. Her husband was there, and their daughter was there as well, and it was just such a good vibe. So we're like, "Yeah, we'd love to work with you and your family." And then she was approved by the fertility clinic a week later, and they did the first cycle test. They do like a mock cycle as a test, and that was just perfect. And they were like, "She's ready," and we were like, "Well, we guess we're ready too." And then she was pregnant, and all of a sudden we had only 14 months later, we had like our second child. So they're very close, which can be intense, but definitely such a gift and such a joy. So that's how I ended up with children.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was
and
so
it's an exciting age too. I mean, you know, and they can get
yeah.
so much mischief if they're so close together.
Oh, they definitely do. And also, yeah, the whole thing of as you said earlier, Martina, the that raising kids is so much more about your own emotions than about their emotions, and working with your own issues and processes, and that definitely comes to show. Like you see this wonderful little angel child of yours sitting, looking you in the eye and holding a like a water bottle over the edge of their chair and just letting go, and you say, can you please hold on to the water bottle, and they just look at you and let go. And you're like, really? And the way you deal with that is that's up to you. I mean, it's not, I mean, yeah, that's how you react is part of like who you are, and that has really also brought some traits in myself out that I've had to work with, which has been great. I mean, it's wonderful, and I love to see my kids develop their personalities and see how we can help them and guide them. And I love the gentle parenting, like the way it is today, like how you teach kids to embrace their own emotions and to kind of teach them about that it's okay to have all the emotions. And not let, when I was a kid, also because my mom was so sick, it wasn't okay to be mad. It wasn't okay to be um, a troublemaker, or because there wasn't room for that. And I totally get that. And I don't blame my parents in any way for what they did. That was what they could. But I just like the way that we're able to, in this time, show our kids that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be happy. But the way you deal with it is how you really succeed in life. And I think we can, if everyone had that focus for their kids, I think we could really change a lot in our world.
So good. Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Peter, last question. What's the legacy that you want to leave? What do you want people to remember about you?
Kindness. Kindness is what comes to me. Like not just me being kind, but spreading kindness through others, like the teaching of kindness. Like so that I'm kind. I try to be kind to everyone, and practice that. And if I can help other people practice that as well, that would be one of the greatest gifts I could. That would be an awesome legacy to have that.
Beautiful.
So, so beautiful. So, Peter, we didn't ask you this before, but does your business work internationally or just in Europe or?
It just works nationwide in Denmark. So
Okay,
so
great.
it is just a Danish company. When I
Do
moved to
you
the
do you
US,
want to just talk about it and tell people how they
yeah.
can find you if they're interested? And you know, we're going to put
So
all the information in the notes if that's what you want.
yeah, not really. But thank you. Because what we do is more it's in the business to business market. So it's very difficult to actually have personal customers as such. So it's more business customers that we work on, and it is a national Danish company. We work all over Denmark, and we have some fairly big customers in Denmark. But we're definitely expanding now that I'm back, and I've had a lot of interesting meetings here in January and February, focusing on that, and that's super exciting. So but yeah, no, but thank you.
Good. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you. It was such a pleasure to, be present to your big heart. It really is your big heart. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here. It was just beautiful, 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 beautiful. And to all of you people out there, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you love this, please leave us a review and share. you know, there's other people who might want some inspiration, so please share it. If you want to find out more about us, you can check in the notes. Our Linktree profiles are there. And please always remember that you are extraordinary and you rock. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Peter, you get to end it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely amazing. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.